welcome to my channel. This is where I talk about all things bookish, writing, and I make sarcastic comments along the way. Today we're in the reading room, and I'm recapping what I read in February and sharing some quick reviews about those reads. So we've got these 6 books to go over. Also, quick shout out to the Bookish Box for my awesome shirt. I'm all booked up. I'm not a subscriber of theirs. This is not sponsored or anything, but I've definitely bought a few things from their shop, and I am absolutely loving this shirt. Spoiler alert, I will be talking about major plot points and twists in these books, and like most of my videos, I do want to preface this review by saying that these reviews are strictly about the books, not about the authors. I respect these authors for doing the work and putting their books out there, and my reviews are not about them as people, but just about the book I read that was written by them. So first up, for what I read in February, we have You Should Have Told Me by Leah Konen, and I apologize if I butchered your last name, but I got this from my subscription with the book drop, and having read Leah's work before, I quickly pushed this to the top of my to-be-read pile for February, but let's take a look at the back cover copy to see what this book promised us. So, Janie needs a break. Her baby won't sleep, she's struggling with motherhood, and a secret from her past threatens to tear her new family apart. So when her partner Max offers to do their baby's feedings that night so she can finally get some rest, she jumps at the chance. But when Janie wakes up at 3 a.m., her daughter is screaming alone in her bassinet. Max has vanished. On her own with a newborn and desperate for answers, Janie searches for Max, but the more she learns about the man she loves, the more she wonders how well she knew him at all. When a woman is murdered and Max becomes the prime suspect, Janie must face her partner's secrets and her own if she ever wants her daughter to see her father again. So what I did like about this book is I do think Janie is an interesting character. She's really sheltered and naive, even though it kind of sounds like she had to grow up quickly to take care of her parents, but she was a decent character to follow through this tale. I also really appreciated the realistic portrayal of motherhood and how it's not all sunshine and daisies for some moms. Some moms need to grieve the loss of the life that they had pre-baby, and some have postpartum depression. Some moms struggle to connect with their newborn and build that love for their child. It was raw, it was showing the fears that some mothers face, and it was showing that having a newborn is difficult. Now, one thing that I didn't really like about the book is it kind of got a little repetitive, but that also might have been done on purpose to reinforce the idea of Janie's hesitations around being a mother. But there was a lot of drum beating around how often she had to breastfeed, and then dump it if she drank, and then breastfeed, switch boobs, put Freya down, then drink, pump and dump again. Oh, it's time to feed her. Oh, Freya's awake. Time for another lunchtime snack. Again, I kind of guessed that it was done on purpose, but it does really start to jump out at you after a while. And looking at some Goodreads reviews, it looks like people felt the same way too. Spoiler alert, Max, really? You couldn't call her? Like, I get the suspense needs to be drawn out, but can we have a better excuse? Maybe he didn't have a phone, so he couldn't be tracked. He's in the car for a 9-hour drive, but he can't call her to let her know what's going on or just answer a few questions. I did get frustrated that Janie kept defending him and believing Max, even though all the evidence, his family's behaviors, and his own trash behavior kind of pointed that he was in the wrong. Again, spoiler, obviously he's not by the end, but the moves around trying to hide him or make him seem like a red herring weren't great when the reveal is shared. I mean, some of Max's cryptic calls were just comical. Why is he being so freaking cryptic when it comes to nothing in the end? If he was that innocent, he wouldn't have talked like that, or at least I don't think so. Again, I get drawing it out, but after the reveal, it's just kind of like, can you talk like a normal person? I will say that the twist of Carl being the one who did it was pretty surprising. I honestly didn't see it coming. But then, speaking of red herrings, Daniel's sudden incel turn was a bit odd, for a lack of a better term. He's suddenly throwing around terms like Chad. Like, was Grace/Ray that desperate to end up with this guy? Like, I have a feeling it sounded like she was supposed to be kind of smart, so the fact that she ended up with this dude when he switches that fast, like, obviously she would have seen something like that. So, I don't know. It felt a little weird to me. I also fully expected Liana to betray Janie, so she was actually a really well done red herring. Though I do still judge her for not telling Janie about catching Max with Grace or Ray. Really, Liana? You tell Janie you love her as much as Max, but you won't tell her this piece of evidence, or you won't warn her that, I don't know, maybe her husband's cheating on her? This is my second Leah Konen book, and I do like her writing, and I have liked her characters. Her plots are interesting, and her writing is strong. While I didn't exactly love this book, I also didn't hate it. It's a really great popcorn read, or something I would recommend someone read on the plane or sitting by a pool on vacation. Trigger warning for this book, there is some SA. It's not exactly a twist, but it is a reveal that Janie was R-worded, and it wasn't executed that well. It kind of just felt like Janie had this weight on her shoulders, knowing that she cheated on him, but then it was revealed that she was taken advantage of instead, and then doesn't want to say anything. Like, I get it, we do live in a world that often listens to men in the he said, she said side of things, but still, I actually have appreciated it if it had been she had just cheated, and she had made the mistake and apologized for it, and they both learned to work through it. But fair warning, there is some essay in the book. So next up was When the Night Bells Ring by Joe Kaplan. And I got this from my Twisted Retreat box, so I knew I was in for a spooky, scary read. So let's talk back cover. In a future ravaged by fire and drought, 2 climate refugees ride their motorcycles across the wasteland of the West and stumble upon an old silver mine. Descending into the cool darkness of the caved-in tunnels, in desperate search of water, the 2 women find Lavinia Kane's diary, a settler who brought her family to Nevada in the late 1860s. But Lavinia and the settlers who had come in search of prosperity discovered something more than silver in the depths of the mine, something monstrous that does not want greedy prospectors disturbing the earth. Whispers of curses and horrid creatures haunt the diary, and now, over 150 years later, trapped in the abandoned mine, the women discover they're not alone. The monsters are still here, and they're thirsty. So I actually really liked this. It had a great mix of horror, bloody action, and the sense of what the hell is happening. The spooky atmosphere really brings you in and really works for the story, and it's quite a unique setup. The world is essentially dying, and there are beings that can probably survive this. It really makes you question, what would you do to survive? The only 2 things I didn't love as much was the middle got a little muddled and slowed down, and I also think the ending was kind of abrupt, and we never really got a definitive answer as to what the creatures are. I'm going to guess that they are essentially rewritten vampires, kind of based on the foil cover and the subtle hints with like all the bats that are in the cave, and the fact that like they obviously survive on blood, but they do it a little bit differently. Also, at the end, you find out, there's other creatures like this. So were all the others human and found this thing that eventually infects Lavinia? Were they at one time infected? I wish we had seen more of that, or even had a few diary entries of Lavinia becoming one and surviving for her family. I'm also surprised Wainoka became one too, because you'd think they'd be thirsty after all this time and probably just would have eaten her, but what do I know? Also, poor Oscar, he's really going to need some therapy after all of this. Granted, that might be a little tough given the time he lives in, but that poor little boy. Overall, though, I really enjoyed this, and it kept my interest throughout. I wanted to see how the stories converged, and I wanted to figure out what was going on. I'm definitely giving Kaplan's other works a look, as I read really great things about her haunted house book, It Will Just Be Us. I really liked her writing style and ability to weave tension into her scenes. Overall, if you're looking for a horror story in the Old West, this is it. Next up on my February reading list was The Do-Over by Sharon M. Peterson. This came from my Fiction Flock book box, and while romance is typically not my top go-to genre, I actually thought this was quite cute. So on the back cover, it took the most humiliating breakup for me to see that my life is in serious need of a do-over. Cue my anti-New Year's resolutions that even I can't fail. 1. Stop dating. Men are the worst. 2. Stop trying to lose weight. I'm never giving up chocolate. 3. Stop working so hard. Selling mortgages is not my dream career. 4. Stop trying to live up to unrealistic expectations. Start living my best life. Number 5, stop trying to please my mother. It's not possible. But it turns out number 5 is harder than I thought, as she begins her campaign to get me back with my ex. So what's the perfect solution to keep her out of my love life? An imaginary boyfriend. At least he was supposed to be imaginary, until I blurted out my neighbor's name. Nate, the bad boy next door with gorgeous hazel eyes, a razor-sharp jawline, and a mysterious scar, might be hot, but he's definitely not my boyfriend. Now all I need to do is stick to my resolutions, while also keeping my interfering family away from my non-existent lover who has no idea that we're fake dating. What could possibly go wrong? Are there some things that I didn't like? Sure. But overall, I enjoyed this cute, easy-to-read romance. It was easy to follow Percy and her struggles and watch as she embraced who she was and learned to live her life the way she wanted to. I also liked that she was plus-sized and was happy with herself. If I wasn't worried about copyright, I would so play Mika's "Big Girl, You Are Beautiful," because Percy really embodied that. I also love that she has a platonic relationship with a dude, not something you often see. Her relationship with, I'm probably going to say his name wrong, but I think it's Matthias, I don't know. It was really healthy and fun to follow. Grandma Mimi reminded me so much of Betty White's character from The Proposal, so you know she follows the beat of her own drummer, and she has quite a bit of sass, and I really liked her character. Percy's parents kind of suck, but you do understand why they are the way they are. The book does a really good job of showing that we all have our own things that we're dealing with, and even our parents are human. They have their own struggles that they're going through too. Her relationship with Nate felt somewhat like a Grumpy meets Sunshine pairing, but Percy also had her own brand of sass and sarcasm. I really understood Percy, and she was very easy to root for through her transformation. Oh, also, on their relationship with Nate, there's no spice, if that's what you're looking for. Honestly, the only part that I felt didn't add much at all to the story was the Bria storyline, besides the very small payoff at the end. Either that should have been cut entirely or woven into the story better. But that's the biggest thing that stuck out to me that didn't really work, so I will take it. Otherwise, I really enjoyed Peterson's writing style, her pacing, the characters. I really look forward to finding more from her and meeting other characters that she plans to bring to life. If you're looking for a light, fun, feel-good read that features a great main character and includes some romance, I definitely recommend this book. Next up, we've got 4 Ways to Wear a Dress by Gillian Libby. And I got this book in a special edition unplugged book box about summer reads, and it did fit the bill. I took this book with me to Mexico as I knew it would be a fun, quick read. Well, kinda. Let's look at the back cover copy. All her life, Millie Ward has done exactly what everyone told her to do, hoping that it would lead to a fulfilling life. She keeps telling herself that if she can hold on just a little while longer, luck will eventually come her way, and she'll find love, success, and a life worth envying. But when she's fired from a job she isn't even sure she liked, Millie says out loud what she's always suspected. She's not happy. So the first time, Millie is going to do what she wants, and that includes leaving New York and starting over in sunny California. In Peacock Bay, Millie can visit her best friend, Quincy, and Quincy's very cute brother, Pete, and catch some waves while she plans her next move. Whatever that is, it has to include the little black dress that she and her friends shared in college. The dress that helped them during first dates, exams, and job interviews. Bringing each woman who wore it a bit of luck and confidence is sure to help Millie when she needs it the most. When a social media mix-up makes it look like Millie and Pete are Peacock Bay's cutest new couple, Millie goes all in. She won't turn down an opportunity to get close to Pete, even if it isn't real. And now that she has her magic dress, her best friends, and Pete by her side, maybe she finally has a chance to show the world who Millie Ward truly is. I really wanted to love this. It reminded me a lot of 100 Other Girls, in that it started out really strong. I was interested, and I liked Millie at first. By page 200, I just wanted it to be over. This should not have been over 300 pages when the subplots are so thin, and there's just endless repetition. Come on, Millie. Pete likes you. Everyone sees it except you. It was exasperating to read over and over and over and over again how it's not a real relationship, even though he's showing you how much he cares. Then she's all, oh, I need to break it off, and he agrees, and she gets annoyed with him. Like, what? Make it make sense. Overall, if you're looking for something to read on vacation and don't care if the plot and subplots are thin, go ahead and get this book. I actually did a deep dive on this book for Wine Club, as, again, the setup was good, just the execution was poor. Next up, we have Don't Go to Sleep by Bryce Moore. And I want to say that this came with a Twisted Retreat or Unplugged box. It's been on my to-be-read shelf for a little bit, but let's take a look at back cover copy. Gianna is an average girl with big worries. She's concerned about her family store, the Great War, and a mysterious illness that is taking hold of New Orleans. And then the attacks begin. A lone man with an axe is terrorizing families, murdering men, women, and children in their beds as they sleep. And the police can't or won't stop him. Gianna knows this monster all too well. Years ago, he attacked her family, and she's worn the scars of their last encounter for a long time. She knows she's the only one who can find him, and as she and her best friend Enzo study the crimes, they see a common link between victims that helps lead them to the killer. But as Gianna closes in on the notorious Axemen, she discovers a connection between them that could cost her everything. I actually really like the tie-in with a real-life event, even though it was quite terrifying. I first heard about the Demon Axemen of New Orleans on BuzzFeed Unsolved with Ryan Bergara and Shane Madej. It was an interesting twist on a real-world horror story. But that said, I felt like the connection between the Axemen and Gianna could have been built up better, had a deeper explanation, or even more investigation into that church she keeps seeing. Was it just the coin? Was it the trauma? Is their connection even deeper than that? Who knows? Though part of that was the lesson that Gianna has to learn. Why lose more of her life and happiness to the Axemen when he's already taken so much? It's over. Move on, essentially. Even if we can peek at the future, it might not change it. But I still want answers. I also love the drops of Italian, not only for characterization, but selfishly as it tested my Italian skills. And it was also interesting seeing the 1918 influenza as part of the book, as it was really easy to relate to having just gone through our own pandemic. The fear, the shame if you masked up in the early days, or if you didn't, and that feeling that this can't be that big of a deal, right? Until people close to you start dying. I will say I didn't even realize that this was technically YA, as Gianna and Enzo are like 17 or 18. I think the time period setting helped on that front, as they didn't drop pop culture references or speak in too much slang, besides their shared Italian. Gianna felt like a young adult on her way to womanhood, just with a few impulses that she needs to learn to control. The setting of New Orleans worked well here, and I liked Gianna's interest in jazz and how that starred in the story. Overall, this was a good, spooky natural read based on a true story. I would definitely be open to reading more from Moore. And then last up, we've got 1500 Miles from the Sun by Jonny Garza. This has also been on my to-be-read shelf for a long while, but since it's romance, I figured February is the month to tackle it. So let's talk back cover copy. Oh, we don't have back cover copy. So I'm just going to get into it. With the book, there is some repetition, especially the conflicts. Like, one chapter would end with something resolved, and then the next chapter opens with practically a redact that, nope. It kind of made the story drag and feel more drawn out than it should have been, though the ending was very fast, and I didn't quite understand if there were time jumps or not, or what was going on. Though I do feel that this is a struggle that many authors have. Even some of the scenes could have been reduced, or we didn't need to see every step of the process. There were also some interesting choices in the sentence structure, like there's a lot of sentence fragments or short, choppy sentences that really feel like stream of consciousness, which sometimes works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it took me out of the story and I had to reread paragraphs thinking that I missed something. I really liked that Jules had great friends, but it also read a little unreal to me. Like, his friends were too amazing or almost too good to be true. Or the dialogue came across very adult and ideal, especially the big speeches. Or maybe I just wasn't that eloquent when I was 18. Mott is hilarious, as is Ruben, though I do wish we got to see more of Mott, or more of their conversations that weren't just him playing therapist to Jules. I know that this is Jules' story, but make me love Mott as much as you do. Again, Mott sometimes talks like he's a man in his 30s, not a teenager. He's very wise, which is great, but it kind of goes back to the too good to be true feeling. He's super understanding and never has a moody outburst of his own. He's almost too perfect. Another thing that I did really like about the book is that it's real. His father was toxic as shit, and trigger warning, there is some parental abuse in the book. It shows how being a teenager, especially one coming out in a family that does not almost allow that, can be painful and complex. I also really liked the blend of Spanish and English. I felt it was authentic and natural. I also really enjoyed the multicultural representation, felt very realistic, at least to me. I do have a friend whose parents are from Mexico, so they speak Spanish at home, English when out and about, and the blended wording and phrasing reminded me of them. Even Mott's Vietnamese family felt true to life, but again, I'm not the best person to be talking about that. There are other Own Voices reviewers that can probably talk about it better than I can. I also really like that the book portrays safe sex and has kind of open conversations around safer sex practices and consent. All in, this book is a really great debut novel by Garza. It's heartwarming, a little bit sappy, but has a very nice LGBTQ happily ever after. It doesn't shy away from the hardships that Jules faces and challenges in his coming out, but it was honest, it was beautiful, and a really good rep of coming of age and just kind of an overall comforting read. So that was what I read in February 2023. If you read any of the books, feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments below, or feel free to give me recommendations for what I should add to my to be read for March. Otherwise, I'll see you next time. Bye.